might be dead. The woman spoke of darkness.
We know what you're up to, but I don't know what I'm up to.
In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
Einstein, wait a moment. The strange signal on 14.25 megahertz, 20 meter band, 2nd July 2009. It's been going on for a few days now. Can't figure out what the signal is all about, nor can any other amateur radio operator that I made contact with. Very strange. What do you think, Einstein? Eh? What do you think about it all? UFOs and all? Eh?
This is a piece of tape that is from an actual event. So just listen and make up your own mind. Hi. Listen, I've got something that's pretty exciting here. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, exactly. And I picked up something on the TV set that's pretty strange. It's the TV set's got an entire, the whole screen is green here, and it's kind of light around the edges. And then there's this large word that appeared. It said alert, alert, alert. And now it's got some instructions on there. I'm going to have to just lay this tape recorder down, and I'm going to have to do what they were asking me to do. I don't know what kind of, maybe we'll get a message here. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's very, it's kind of, it's, I don't know, I'm just completely taken aback by this. I don't know what's going to happen. It's, okay, listen, I'm just going to have to start doing what they asked me to.
We must have some catch-all device.
I think we're getting some kind of,
And happily, it is floating.
yeah, I know what that is. It's the goddamn CIA. That's what that is. No question about it. Jesus Christ. Yeah, this is real. Man, I can't believe this thing. We're getting some messages. I don't know how well you can hear this. It's hard to see and it's hard to hear, but please get it up now. Christ, this is real. I swear to God, I'm not faking this. Christ, this is real. Oh my God, Jesus Christ, oh fuck. Well, there you have it. That was an actual sighting, or I should say an actual auditory sighting, because that made the presence known through my TV screen. And when this happened, I was curious because I expected, on the color of the screen, I expected it to be blue, but it was green. So I had to work further and further into the evidence to find out what was there. And Sure enough, green is the tie-in, and of course, when you think about the flying saucers, when they originally were sighted, the few brave people that were willing to come forward described little green men. Well, they thought they were men like features, and small figures, and the actual creature itself, though, resembles more of a frog. And you can find references to this in Ezekiel with the flying saucer, the wheel within a wheel. And you can also find references in Revelations to creatures with long hair who resemble frogs. And all of this ties in, of course.
When I was up against it, early teens, existential angst, not helped by crass worker-consumer paradigm, foisted from the top down and upheld by the chemical toilet that is most percent of 21st century Western citizenry. Even this can be interesting in a perverted masochistic way, for when artist is sad or boredomed to demonic levels, the product begins gold. But I wasn't an artist, did not know, and shunned the mundane plate anyway. It's not weird enough. There's no oscillator for UFOs. Eventually, however, I somehow got to know of the avant-garde art, a carved environment which has an alluring oomph, potential werewolf. It gives the men a hard-on and the ladies a soft-off, takes or took chances, and was prepared to die for us, not on a cross but for our consciousness. Surrender to a stranger, ye drinkers of phosphorus. Oh yeah, there. When young, impressionable green, I wanted to be an art weirdo, and did become one later, and moved in the circles of that crazy, zany, deep-thinking milieu, and got a lot out of it whilst putting a lot into it. But now, with middle-aged hindsight, I am wary and perturbed that I may have been suckered into yet another mass psyop, like my soft drug hippie fascination in the 1980s, all of them an abyss to disempower, dissipate and disappear the 10% vanguard elite revolters who think other than the herd and are dangerous to the status quo. Dada, and to a lesser extent surrealism, inspired a lot of the more genuinely subversive Situationist International, Fluxus, Neoist and type activity, performance and conceptual art, plus wider afield manifests, such as the prank and taboo button-pushing work of the Grand Master of the Order of the Trapezoid, Boyd Rice, also known as Non. We can forget the so-called Neo-Dada movement of 1950s painters Jasper Johns and Robert Rauschenberg and so, who, although they may not have wanted to be associated with such a nomenclature, were always for the bucks and bubblegum. No slack is cut for them and the others. You can see further, encounters in the castle ring, cryptic sightings stream, walkers between the worlds, you are right. We should put the cock forward in British summertime, cunt. Let us build each other, mystifying the dragon Mayday. But there's a price. We are all now inside the Videodrome, the atrocity exhibition, the polymorphously perverse panopticon, and everything we say online is feeding the AI supercomputers getting ready to rule. Artistic revolt does not help, if it is the wrong kind. The aforementioned Avant-Garde, for instances. I now believe Dada and Surrealism were not an antidote to cryptocracy control. They were magical movements created by the cryptocracy to further its aims. Many surrealists came from rich elite families, and during the World War II era, they penetrated American high society by being invited over there by art lovers with more money than sense. The clues which do not lie are the surrealists' use of the single eye, as in Man-Ray's kinetic artwork Indestructible Object, 1923, George Bataille's book Story of the Eye, 1928, René Magritte's painting The False Mirror, 1928, the woman's eye being sliced with a straight razor, presaged by the cloud passing the moon, invoking the illogical unconscious, in Louis Buñuel and Salvador Dali's film Un Chien Andalou, 1929, and Salvador Dali's lithograph etching The Eye of Surrealist Time, 1971. Max Ernst urged us to close one eye to see the inner world and to have the other eye open to see the outer world, so one may synthesize subjective and objective life, which is cognate with the postmodernist cultural Marxist everything is relative ploy to undermine traditional reality structures, which is echoed in today's celebrities posing for photographs with one eye covered by a hand or something else to show their allegiance. The surrealists' preoccupation with Sigmund Freud, spiritualism and trance states, hypnosis and mind control, gave rise to the assertion in 1929 by their leader, André Breton, that, quote, the simplest surrealist act consists of dashing down the street, pistol in hand, and firing blindly, as fast as you can pull the trigger, into the crowd. Close quotes. It's a proto-serial killer predictive programming meme. A more ritualistic murder was planned by George Bataille's Acephal cult at a lightning-struck tree in a forest soon after or during World War II. The actual term Dada is the colloquial French term for a hobby horse that is cognate with the upper echelon elite rocking horse ring, the RHR paedophile cult, so named because of the repetitive rocking back and forth of their dazed and confused victims after the ritual abuse. The untouchable RHR uses Alice in Wonderland script programming mind control on its underage sex slaves. In Looking Glass World, the insects in the wood have no names, and one of them, a very large gnat, tells Alice of the rocking horse fly that lives on sap and sawdust, i.e. codes for zap, electroshock, and sawdust, SOREDUST, irritant compounds that are both used in the trauma torture. This gnat is entirely made of wood and looks sticky, which is the ceremonial dildo used in rocking horse rites, akin to the ice-cold phallus of the devil, in reality a solid dildo sheath of wood, horn, or stone, worn over the phallus of the high priest in disguise. The poet, painter, novelist, and esoteric initiate Henry Mitchell, a hallucinator on mescaline who travelled widely and further, wrote a poem with the royal spider and discovered an infinity machine, is often grouped with the surrealists, although he is a part, not a part. Educated at a Jesuit school in Brussels, early on wanted to be a priest but was not. His book, The Major Ordeals of the Mind and the Countless Minor Ones, Harcourt Brace Jovanovich, 1966, infused by drug abnormal states, suggests some form of trauma, torture-based mind control. In 1948, his wife died after accidentally setting fire to her nightgown, so they say. In 1957, Unica Zern fell under his spell and called him Jasmine Man, or the man in Jasmine, perhaps the man of Jasmine, a fantasy figure of her child years. She was an anagram poetress and automatic drawer, came from a rich family and was probably sexually abused as a child. Black magic baroness bosom room, cabinet of curiosities. She took mescaline with Mitchell's, deeply in love. Then 1960s psychotic episode. Mitchell's appeared before her and ordered her to do things. She was never the same. Psych ward revisits. Her arms weigh nothing. In 1970 she leapt to her suicide of death from the high window of the apartment shared with her basic lover, Hans Belmer, himself a right perv and wooden sex doll maker. I dare not communicate what the surrealists' contemporaries, Le Grand Jeu, the great game cabal, had planned for the world as part of their psychonautical philosophy. Nor dare I say what wonders and horrors were conjured up in the bookshop basement portals of Better Books and Compendium in London during the 1960s and after. What I may say is that the unusual and unusual is not. The normal and the other normal is. Unnecessary to regard them as two separate things, but rather as different aspects of the same thing. Hence something familiar can also be strange.
Huge motherships.
It's only now I remember any of it at all.